You know what's strange? One of the most expensive mistakes many of us make has nothing to do with buying the wrong house or picking the wrong investment. It's spending decades trying to impress people who were never really watching in the first place. A few months ago, I met a 76-year-old man in a hardware store parking lot. His shirt had a mustard stain across the front, big enough that most of us would have noticed it and immediately wished it wasn't ours. I glanced at it for just a second. He caught me, looked down at his shirt, smiled, then looked back at me and said, "Nobody's watching, son. There's nobody in the seats." He loaded a bag of mulch into his trunk, drove off, and left me standing there questioning almost everything I'd spent my adult life chasing. Because the longer I thought about those 8 words, the more I realized he wasn't talking about the stain. He was talking about our careers, our money, our homes, our status, and all the Tuesday nights we've quietly traded away believing somebody, somewhere, was keeping score. Today, I'm going to show you the 10 things retirees eventually stop caring about. But don't skip ahead, because the last one explains why that sentence in a hardware store parking lot has stayed with me ever since. And once you truly understand it, you'll never look at success or your own life the same way again. A 76-year-old named Ray stood in a hardware store parking lot with a mustard stain the size of a dinner plate on his shirt. I did the polite glance and look away. He caught it, looked down at his chest, then back at me, and said, "Nobody's watching, son. There's nobody in the seats." Then he loaded a bag of mulch into his trunk, drove off, and stood there, having a small crisis. Because once you understand what he meant, you can't go back. Most of us spend decades on stage. We perform the successful version, the busy version, the version with the right car, the interesting job title, the correct opinions. We sweat under the lights, we worry about the reviews, and the seats were empty the entire time. Retirees are simply the people who finally walked down the steps, turned around, and looked. Today, I'm going to show you the 10 things they stop caring about, and every single one of them is a ticket to a show nobody ever bought. 1. Keeping up with the Joneses, the oldest scam in America. The Joneses got a new deck. The Joneses just finished a kitchen remodel with an island the size of a Honda Civic. Their kid got into a school you can't pronounce, and you feel that little acid drop in your stomach. Here's what nobody tells you while you're still in the race. The Joneses are leveraged. That deck is on a home equity line. That kitchen is a 5-year note. They are one bad quarter away from a very quiet, very tense conversation at their beautiful new island. Retirees have watched the full movie. They've seen the guy who worked until 68 to afford the boat and used it 4 times. They've seen the gorgeous house with the miserable marriage inside it. Somewhere in your 60s, you stop looking at the deck and start looking at the man standing on it. Half the time, he just looks tired. The race was never real. You were sprinting on a treadmill next to another guy on a different treadmill. Both of you stayed exactly where you were. 2. Owning more stuff. You spend 30 years acquiring things. The house, the furniture, the good china, the garage full of tools, half of them bought for one project in 2007, the attic boxes that will never be opened. Then, around 68, it all feels heavy. A man tries to give his daughter the solid oak dining set that cost a small fortune in 1994. She says, "Oh, no thanks, Dad. We're kind of minimalist right now." And you watch 30 years of assumptions quietly collapse behind his eyes. Stuff isn't wealth. Stuff is a job. Every object you own is asking you for something. Clean me, store me, insure me, move me, explain to your children why they should want me. Retirees downsize, and almost every one of them says the same sentence afterwards. "I don't know why we waited so long." Go use the good china tonight. Random Tuesday. Takeout. The number one regret I hear is, we were saving it for a special occasion. The occasion never came. You are the occasion. 3. Impressing other people. There's a specific exhaustion that comes from performing competence 8 hours a day, sending the email at 9:40 p.m. so the timestamp does the bragging for you, saying, let's circle back because you have nothing to contribute but need to be seen contributing, updating your title to Strategic Growth Catalyst when what you actually do is make spreadsheets. Retirees are done, completely done. Ask one what they used to do for a living and watch how fast they change the subject. Oh, I was in insurance. Anyway, have you tried these crackers? Costco. Unbelievable. That's the eulogy for a 30-year career that cost him his back, his weekends, and his son's 5th grade band recital. If the thing you're currently sacrificing your Tuesday nights for is the thing you'll be bored mentioning at a barbecue in 15 years, you might want to reprice that sacrifice right now while you can still get some of the money and time back. The audience you're impressing? Empty seats. 4. Chasing every last dollar. Careful here. This is a money channel. Money matters, but there's a difference between having enough and chasing every dollar. Chasing every dollar looks like driving 11 minutes to save 4 cents a gallon, spending an entire Saturday moving a savings account for an extra 0.15%, taking the promotion you don't want in the city you don't like because it's more, and the expensive one, just one more year. The market's a little shaky. The bonus vests in 14 months. Let's do one more. Retirees have watched people do one more year 4 times in a row and then get a diagnosis. Your life is not a spreadsheet you're optimizing. It's a spreadsheet you're spending. Every dollar you chase is bought with something that does not come back. The wealthiest man I know, in the way that actually counts, turned down a big consulting gig at 67. Someone asked why. He said, because I already won and I don't want to keep playing. 5. Winning every argument. A certain segment of the retiree population has not learned this and is currently typing in all caps under a local news Facebook post at 6:15 a.m. But the ones who figured it out are some of the happiest people I know. Arguing with a stranger is like doing squats with an imaginary barbell. Enormous effort, 0 result. You look insane doing it. The move they've mastered? They see something they violently disagree with, feel the heat rise, thumb hovers, and then they put the phone down and go look at a bird. The bird has no opinion on the election. The bird is just doing bird things. It will still be there after the argument that would have changed absolutely nobody's mind. Same energy at Thanksgiving. The retiree who has stopped needing to win is the most powerful person at the table. Everyone else is arguing. He's having thirds. 6. Following every trend. Cargo shorts, 9 pockets, 3 of them in active use. White New Balance sneakers that were mocked for 2 decades and then somehow became cool again. Not that he noticed, he never stopped wearing them. He simply stood still while the culture did a full lap and came back to shake his hand. He's not doing it ironically, he's not making a statement, he genuinely, chemically does not care. Trends require you to care about the opinion of people you will never meet about something that will be embarrassing in 4 years. You rent relevance monthly, forever. Retirees cancel the subscription. The phone they didn't upgrade. The show everyone is watching that they haven't started and won't. The crypto thing their nephew explained twice. Standing still turns out to be a strategy, and it's free. 7. Living on other people's schedules. For 40 years, someone else owned your calendar. Meetings you didn't call, deadlines you didn't set. Sitting in the parking lot for 10 extra minutes because you don't want to walk in early and make small talk with Todd from accounting. Then one day, the regime falls. The only thing on Tuesday is what he decides is on Tuesday. The transition is rough for some. There's a 2-week period where they don't know what to do with their hands. They reorganize the garage. They alphabetize the spices. They call you at 10 a.m. on a workday about a scam that isn't real. Then it settles, and what you get is a man who says, "I'll be over around noon," and shows up at 2:15 holding tomatoes from a farm stand he found on the way with no explanation and no remorse. Most of them still wake up at 6 a.m. The difference is nobody told them to. It was never about doing less. It was about being the one who decides. 8. Being busy to feel productive. Somewhere in America right now, a man is looking at a wall-to-wall color-coded calendar and feeling good about himself. He has accomplished nothing, but he is booked. We have confused motion with progress so thoroughly that "How have you been?" is answered with "busy," and we all nod like that's an achievement. It's not. It's a symptom. Retirees break the addiction. The first month is brutal. They invent projects. They go to the hardware store 4 times. Then something beautiful happens. They sit on the porch. They don't do anything, and they discover they haven't disappeared. That's the fear underneath all of it. If I'm not producing, am I still worth anything? Retirees find out the answer is yes. It takes about 6 weeks and one very quiet Wednesday afternoon. A full calendar is not a full life. Sometimes it's the exact opposite, the thing you use to avoid noticing the life you're not living. 9. Pleasing everyone. At 35, you want everybody to like you. Your boss, your neighbor, your barista, the woman at the DMV for some reason. At 70, there are maybe 6 people whose opinion actually lands. If you're not one of the 6, respectfully, you're furniture. This is not rudeness. Most retirees are kinder than the rest of us. They've simply pulled apart 2 things we keep gluing together: kindness and approval seeking. One is a gift, the other is a tax. Watch one order at a restaurant. "I'll have the salmon, no sauce, and bring the salad first." No apology, no nervous laugh, no "sorry, I know this is a whole thing." Meanwhile, a lot of us have eaten meals containing ingredients we're allergic to because we didn't want to make a fuss. When that switch flips, you get hours back every week, hours you were spending managing other people's feelings about your very normal preferences. Saying no isn't cruelty, it's accuracy. 10. The portfolio that performs for an audience. There's a version of retirement that looks like this: checking the portfolio 3 times a day, watching the red numbers, reading a headline with the word "plunge" written by a 24-year-old, and calling the advisor. That's not retirement. That's a job with worse hours and no coworkers. The other version is boring, and boring is the point. A couple years of spending in cash and short-term instruments so a bad market can't force a sale at the bottom. A withdrawal plan they actually trust. Boring index funds. They never talk about it at parties. When the market drops 9% in a week, they look at it and say, "Huh." Then they go water the tomatoes. That's the flex. Not "I beat the market," not "I called it," just "huh," and then tomatoes. A portfolio you can ignore is worth infinitely more than a portfolio that performs for one simple reason. It's the only kind you'll actually stick with. That same muscle works on everything else: the election, the neighbors, what your adult kid decides to do with his life, whether it rains on Saturday. Retirees sort the world into 2 boxes: mine and not mine. They only carry the first one. So let's go back to Ray. Mustard on his shirt, bag of mulch in the trunk. "Nobody's watching, son. There's nobody in the seats." I used to think that was bleak, like he was saying nobody cares about you. That's not what he meant. What he meant was, you're free. The reviews aren't coming. The judges went home. The theater you've been performing in was built by you, staffed by you, and the audience whose approval you've been buying with your money, your Tuesdays, and your one and only life was never actually there. You do not have to be retired to walk off that stage. Not one thing on this list requires a 401k, a pension, or a certain birthday. You can drop every single one of them today, for free. The good china is in the cabinet. Go get it.